and welcome to Agony Autie's podcast chat. I don't even know what we're going to call this. So many of you probably know me from a vlog that I do on Facebook called Agony Autie. I'm Sara, I'm 30 years old, I'm diagnosed autistic, and I have a little boy who is 5 years old, and he's also diagnosed autistic, and he goes to a special needs school in the UK. And I wanted to basically move away from the video format and bring an autistic podcast that we can do each week and have autistic guests and loads of different people. But I have a guest with me who is going to be permanent. She's actually my co-host, and I met Ali in January. Online.
God, is that when it was in January?
Yeah, it feels like years. Feels like years, but she rocks. So I'll let her introduce herself. Yeah, so go, Ali.
So
who are you?
Yeah, so I'm Ali. I live in the States. I live in California. I've been teaching for 10 years. 3 years ago, went to a therapist because I was struggling in my relationship, and my husband and I went, and he's like, "Would you take a test for me?" And I'm like, "Of course, sure." You know, I thought we were talking about relationships here, but whatever. So I took this massive test, and he comes back and he's like, and please keep in mind, this was like 3 years ago. So the diagnostic criteria were just like changing, and the language is still getting worked out. But he's like, I was pretty sure that you were Asperger's, but after taking this test, you are really autistic. And it's funny, one of my very best friends in Australia teaches special needs, and we always used to talk about it. She helped me a couple of times with like special needs students that came in and how to make sure that I was doing right by them so they could have an environment where they could learn something. When I told her, I'm like, "Did you know I was diagnosed? I'm autistic." And she's like, "Oh yeah." Like totally matter of fact. She's like, "It's not really something you can tell somebody casual conversation."
So for those of you who aren't familiar with Agony Autie, you can go and check it out on Facebook. There are some videos on YouTube as well. But I just wanted to explain like what the format of the podcast is going to be. So each week it's going to be myself, Sara, Agony Autie, and Ali Kat, my co-host. And we're going to be inviting guest speakers, aren't we, Ali, on each week?
That's right.
And what kind of things do you think we're going to be talking about? What kind of topics are you hoping to talk about over the next 12 weeks?
I know that we're gonna try to talk about like some of the taboos and talk about, you know, the kind of labels. I've been quite surprised in this journey being yelled at for saying I'm autistic. You know, so
Yeah.
I think that that's something we need to talk about, you know, what labels we use and what labels we're allowed to use, like for ourselves. We're going to talk about what being autistic means and how it is different but not diminishing who we are.
Awesome.
I think that question of like introducing myself for me right now is so intertwined with the research I've been doing on autism. So for me, I have a very hard time right now because I'm so fixated on talking about this assessment and being, you know, this new understanding through the looking glass of, oh, I now understand what I've been going through all this time. So right now, my identity is completely wrapped up in the diagnosis.
So we're going to be talking about the diagnostic criteria, and we're going to be talking about that actually today. And I'm going to be focusing on Ali's journey of realizing that she's autistic. I call it autistic self-realization.
I think that's a good way.
As I like to call it. So I'm going to be looking at that, and then I'll probably join in and chip in and tell you a little bit about my story as well. But we're going to also be inviting on guest speaker with Rosie King from CBeebies Pablo. CBeebies, they released an animation all about an autistic llama.
That's going to be amazing.
It's incredible, Ali. And all the cast is diverse, identify either as neurodiverse, autistic, or as with a disability. You know, they really made it representative. So she's going to be on our show.
I need to find a way to see that in the US because I've been reading about it. It's been featured in my animation magazine subscription. So I need to double check and make sure that's where I saw it. Yeah, I teach.
You teach animation?
No, I trained in animation. I teach 3D modeling. So it's a little different. It's like I'm basically building the puppets for the puppeteer.
That's awesome. And Ali's
digitally.
been making a mouse. You've been making an Agony Autie Sara mouse, haven't you, for
Right.
my vlog series that I do online. And why did you make me a mouse? Tell me a little bit about what made you. Because if anyone knows me, my features, my best friend Nick Hudson, hi Nick, he likes to point out that I've got a little button nose. And is that because I really thought that was cute that you turned that into like a little feature.
Well, I noticed that you often have your hair up in little balls, and I couldn't tell. I was struggling to come up with a way. I have no interest in drawing human beings whatsoever. So, like, if I have to draw a cartoon character and I'm trying to make them look human, I lose interest almost instantaneously. So I started drawing different animals, and the mouse just kind of. And I think I remember calling you and saying, your little ears, your little hair ears, are those?
You did.
What
yeah.
animal is that you associate yourself with? And you're like, it's a mouse. And I had been doing sketches of mice anyways, because...
And that was so insane. That was a moment, actually, where me and you were like, oh, my God. Because she'd already sketched all these different series of Sara mouses. And it was really weird because you were like, would you say a mouse or a bear? And I was like, a mouse. And lo and behold, she's like, oh, good, because... that's what I've gone ahead and drawn. And there were all these different Sara mice. And yeah, it was just really cool that you managed to get up that's an animal that I kind of would pick. I wouldn't pick a bear. I'd pick a mouse. I guess that's because I'm quite emotionally sensitive. I'm an emotional one,
Well, I keep telling
Ali?
you that you need to take a look at Tale of Despero. The cartoon, the book, it doesn't matter. They're brilliant. But I always... It's funny because as a kid, I always identified with that character so much. One of the things that it says, and I can't remember these days if it was the book or the movie, because I've read the book a few times and I've seen the movie, probably an proper autistic obsession, probably in excess of 500 times, easily. And
wow.
Yeah, I obsess true and proper with films. And the Tale of Despero, there's a point where it's like his eyes saw more than everyone else, and his ears heard more than everyone else, and his heart felt more than everyone else. And I was always like, that's me. I'm Despero. I'm this terrified little mouse who sees everything and is terrified of everything, but stepping out in front of the dragon's mouth anyway. So like that character was huge for me. So I've always kind of related to that, small in a huge world that's too much sometimes. And I always joke, my friend Carrie and I always are like, cats are so autistic. And like, I am kind of obsessed with cats. So like my avatar has always been a cat. And I've always thought that like, we kind of have fun conversations like Tom and Jerry with you running around and me just trying to keep up after you sometimes. And it's kind of funny. When Tom and Jerry were getting along, when it wasn't a predatory relationship, when they were buddies.
Yeah. Really interesting, actually, that you brought up the Mouse of Desperado as an example, because one of the things that this this autistic pod chat will be doing each week is autistic representation in film, media, and culture. And we don't think there's enough of it, do we, Ali?
No, and we have some ideas about how it's portrayed and when they're getting it right and when it's subtle and when it's stereotypical. And
every week or so we're going to be having a guest on. It's actually your husband we're going to be having as a guest co-speaker, and he's going to be reviewing and discussing autistic representation in current film and media, past and present.
Yeah.
And we're going to be developing some really cool theories, but we're not going to go into that right now. So this podcast today is basically an introduction for you to get a feel of what we're about, who me and Ali are, and the format of the show. This one is relaxed, and it doesn't have any guests in this one. And that's because I'm really nervous.
Yeah, we're just testing out how this is even going to work.
Yeah.
We're turning our sitting around and chatting into something, because we help each other a lot. There have been times where we've been talking and it's like, wait, you feel that way too? And like, it's a realization that like we've been told that thinking this way or feeling this way or reacting to these stimulus have been somehow wrong. And then we meet someone else who struggles with the same thing. And it's like, oh my God, it's not just me. We're trying to talk about creating a safe space. We don't want to talk about things that diminish the conversation. We want to talk about things that are respectful to everyone who's trying to come together and deal with this in a respectful manner with each other. And it's going to be hard because we are, by definition, people who feel things much more passionately and strongly and emotionally than our environment has allowed us to safely. So there are going to be times where we piss you off, and there are going to be times where you guys are going to laugh. Like, please be careful about, drinking liquids while you're listening to the show. I guarantee you, I make my husband spit coffee out his nose just about every other morning, just
I'm
with
always
some
saying that
comment.
Ali needs to be a stand-up comedian. I swear, honestly, guys, she's just.
But we're gonna cover all of this. I mean, there's gonna be times, I guarantee you, where people are gonna sit there and go, I am not comfortable listening to this conversation. And those are the times where we're gonna be talking about something that we really need to deal with. And please keep in mind, that we're autistic and we're sensitive, and we are trying to do this the right way, inclusively and respectfully. And we're gonna fall down because we struggle with those everyday social cues too. We're gonna misunderstand. And it's okay to be offended if we've said something that offends someone. That's an okay reaction. It's how you handle it that we're gonna try to talk about. We're interested in trying.
I mean, we're going to aim to be as diverse and as inclusive as possible because we're very aware. I mean, I'm a Caucasian 30-year-old woman. I do not represent everybody who is autistic, and we're very aware of that. And that's why we want to invite people to have healthy debate, healthy discussion, and some of the issues that we're going to be talking about. Just to give you an idea, we're going to do them hopefully weekly to try and keep the theme quite tight and concentrated because we do go off topic a lot. Oh my goodness
I don't
me.
know what you're talking about. I am super focused and always on task.
Yeah, no, that's just like, no, yeah, that's not happened. Nah. So yeah, but the thing is though, Liam will edit it so it'll look like we really are.
Yeah, it will look like totally competent. It's like, wow, I had no idea I could focus so well.
Wow, I had no idea that they didn't totally suck. Oh, my neck. Damn it, I should explain that first. Nah, I just subluxed my neck. Right, okay.
Okay, so
I have
we'll
a disability.
I have a disability
called Ellis or Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It's a connective tissue disorder that I was born with, and I was only diagnosed with it in January this year. So that sucks. And that happened because I started dislocating the knee bones connected to the right bone, and then the thumb popped out, the shoulder subluxed, which is a partial dislocation. And now, every day, I partially dislocate. And it's rubbish and I'm housebound. So if you hear clicking, creaking or clicking or anything like that, or me going, that's just my disability. And I also suffer from
wait.
my head cuts out and stuff.
They might also hear some because I have a macaw who's being very sweet and quiet. So sometimes it'll be Sara and sometimes it'll be Buster with an opinion.
And you won't be able to tell. It'll be just so confusing and disorientating for everybody involved. Some of the topics we're going to be talking about is autistic learning and education. So what I wanted to talk about that is the different ways that autistic people learn and some of the issues and barriers to education that we have.
Yeah, that'll be good. I'm going to be doing a lot of research actually on that as I develop a couple of new classes too. So,
and because you're a teacher, aren't you? So explain a little bit about your interest in that vlog. We're going to be doing that in a few weeks. So tell us a little bit about what you'd like to talk about in that.
What I'm trying to do is put together a class where kids on the spectrum at all different levels of the spectrum can come in to a classroom together and learn. We talk about basic social skills that are scary to talk about with kids who wouldn't necessarily understand, try to create a safe space. Ultimately, I would like it to be a place where the parents can join the kids, because a lot of the kids who are more in need of support, a lot of times the parents come to the room anyways. And I think it might be enlightening for parents to sit in the room with these kids. I've noticed that kids who are autistic will automatically kind of slide towards the other kids and kind of relate to them before I might even realize, because I haven't interacted with the kid yet. And these are kids who don't know each other. So what I'm hoping is that by putting a group of them together, that they will be more inclined to start learning how to talk to each other in a supportive way and using shared experiences. Look, if you haven't dealt with autism in any way, you're not going to understand the idea of wanting to have a party because a kid ties their shoes. These things don't make sense.
Big achievement.
Yeah, or the achievement, the kid brushes their teeth without having a meltdown at night. I personally went through a phase a few months ago.
Like my Frank.
Yeah, I went through a phase a few months ago where I was throwing up when I would brush my teeth, like every time. And I was like, well, then I'm just not going to brush my teeth because the acid from my stomach's going to erode them faster than not brushing. And I started doing some research and I found, the powders. Now they're starting to make these clay powders. It was actually the slime of the toothpaste that was freaking me out and creating a sensory aversion.
You know what my sensory aversion to toothpaste is?
No.
Mine is the mint. When I was younger, the mint on my tongue, it would burn.
Mint
It
burns
burned
me
so bad
yeah.
that my eyes streamed.
Oh.
And I brushed my teeth, but at great cost. And and it can still make me sick even now. So I'm gonna. What are those? What are they called? Go on then.
I'll send you the link. Yeah, they're clay and they have. I'm a hippie in California. I teach art. I mean, you're going to hear this kind of stuff. And when I talk about this kind of stuff, I'm not saying that this will work for everyone. I'm saying that these are the things that I've managed.
Although this is just our advice.
kind of-
Literally, we're two autistic lasses. We are only in our individual bodies. We can only give the advice based on the experiences that we have. And we just hope that over this podcast series, like, you guys are able to relate, because that's where it's not going to be just me and Ali.
Right.
You're going to meet so many
representation.
other people.
It's all, representation's important.
Absolutely. Autistic representation, yeah, absolutely.
And we understand that we can't talk for everyone. And we understand that it's going to be painful for some parents to watch or listen and go, oh, well, they're high functioning. Oh, we're going to talk about functioning labels too.
Ooh, we're going to have,
Sorry, I popped that can open early.
Our next episode is actually going to be What is Autism? The Triad and Sensory Issues Explained from an Autistic Perspective. So that's going to be next week.
All right.
But we're also going to do a vlog on autistic sensory issues. And I've got a fantastic autistic guest speaker.
Nice.
She's a lecturer. She's so intelligent. Tanya, her name is.
That's
so she's going to be
great.
appearing. Yeah, so she's going to be...
So am I going to come and listen in and get to chat too? Or is that going to be one of your
Absolutely.
offshoots?
Well, actually, I need to check with Tanya. I need to make sure, basically, I want to accommodate to her needs first.
Okay,
so
perfect. That
depends on
that's
whether
fine.
she feels overwhelmed or not, that kind of thing. So yeah, another thing we are going to talk about is the neurodiversity model versus the medical model. The current medical model is what we have, is what autism is understood underneath, isn't it? And autism is diagnosed underneath. So we're going to be talking about that and having guest speakers of that. Oh, autistic creativity and innovation. I'm looking forward to speaking about autistic identity and pride. Now, what I mean by that, I've had a few questions. They said, do you mean gay pride or do you mean gay identity? And I don't. I mean autistic identity, like gay identity, like black identity, like woman identity, but autistic identity.
What Rob and I have been talking about, because this is going along some of the academic side that he's talking about. Rob is my husband, who's a movie critic, and he's working on a theory right now on how autistics are presented in media. And one of the things we were saying is that we want to make it absolutely clear that we're not trying to take over that identity. What we're doing is we're saying that they are the people who paved the way for how to talk about deserving dignity.
This is where me and Ali are different. This is where I'm going crazy. I have been waiting for so long to get my little stamp out and go, autistic, 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 because I am desperate. I am desperate to let people know, loud and proud, these people are autistic.
Yeah.
And look at what they are doing. Look at their innovation. Look at their creativity. I just get so excited and so desperate that it's not here yet.
Right, but you have to understand that words like pride are very specific to people who fought very
Yeah.
hard to be acknowledged. And we need to see them as the people we look to respectfully as our leaders of how to talk about the dignity that we deserve. Everybody makes mistakes. Everyone's, nobody's perfect. We're learning. But I think the important thing is that, the LGBT community and the African American community and the suffragettes, these are people who have led the way to get us to this place where we can say, hey, we're a subgroup and we would like to start talking about our identity too. We're allowed to start defining our own identity, just like those people have been fighting for their right to define their own identity. And we're not making comparisons. We're saying that we are following their lead. Because we're going to have people
I think we can
representative
learn a lot
of
from
those
them,
communities
so much.
here too.
Yes,
because
yes.
it's not a mutually exclusive thing. So I just want to make it really clear right off the bat that I don't want anyone feeling like we're appropriating. Because we're not. We're admiring rather than appropriating. I don't know. I worry about those sorts of things because I understand. I grew up with a diverse group of friends and people I knew, and my brothers always had a lot of very diverse friendships, and so I am very self-aware. You were saying earlier about how self-aware you are. I think that from what I've been reading, that girls who are autistic tend to have nearly crippling self-awareness because they really don't want to upset anyone because they've been hurt. I mean, you feel
Well, we are
like
going
that,
to talk
right?
about gender differences as well on the spectrum. We're going to be talking about how currently the medical model is actually male bias in terms of the behaviours are based on the observations of males only from pretty much the 1940s, and not much has changed.
But I mean, you're the same way.
Quite appalling, really.
You're also, always concerned about, that you're always shocked when you've offended someone, like, oh my God, that's not how I meant it at all. And we struggle with that because we say things so matter of fact and very dry, and when we're thinking about it, we don't have sometimes the social baggage because we're seeing things very analytically, very robotically, very
logically. I like to say logic.
Yeah, logically.
But with that logic, there's still emotion attached to
Absolutely.
it, and I have to use my logic to sometimes combat the emotion that is sometimes taking over that logic. And it's a constant battle. It's not like Spock, where, in Spock in Trek, he's one of the most famous people who identify with him as autistic.
But he's always fighting his emotion.
He's always learning about it and bringing it to the forefront. He's always learning to bring it forward.
No, he's always learning
it.
to not express it. Spock. Data's the one who wants to learn how to be an emotional being.
But I thought that Spock, because he was in his Vulcan society, and I know his mother's human, but I thought that he was so used to having it suppressed that when he interacts with humans, he has to now to try learn to bring it to the forefront.
No, it's the opposite.
Right.
He's always trying to suppress it. Yeah, he is a very. I mean, Spock's been my favorite character forever. Like, I'm a hardcore because my mom introduced me to the original series, and when they started saying words like Trekkers, she's like, I'm not a Trekker, I'm a Trekkie. And I'm like, all right, Mom. So I'm not arguing with her. She was, her dad bought the TV in their house, was like the first people owning a colored TV on the whole block so they could watch Star Trek. So my mom's properly obsessed. She has 3 Star Trek uniforms in her closet and has come to Comic-Con in San Diego with me. And so it trickles down, doesn't it? The apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Not at all. My dad's a massive fan, and I've learnt it from him. Right, so a few of the other things that we're going to be talking about over the next few weeks. So we're going to be doing, hopefully, I'm aiming to do 12 of these podcasts from now until Christmas. But because I'm autistic and because of my disability, I do sometimes need to take time out. So it may end up being 10, it may end up being 8. We'll see how it goes. We'll play it by ear. So a few different things we're going to be talking about is autistic employment and equal opportunities.
That's a great
autistic
one.
diagnosis. Ooh, do you like that one, Ali?
Yeah, that's a terrific. Yeah.
So the employments, we've got autistic employment in terms of that. A lot of autistics end up in self-employment. I know I have anyway for the last however many years. And equal opportunities in terms of not only employment opportunities, but social opportunities within different cultures, because we're trying to be as global as possible. But I think a lot of our conversations are going to end up talking about Western, but we will try to look at our Eastern fellows as well, because autistic is a global phenomenon.
Well, I mean, we're going to have to rely on guests reaching out and finding guests to
us,
talk to.
yes.
Because, I mean,
please reach out to us, guys, because we don't know you.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do, is bring this all together so everyone has a safe space to share their wonderful creative worlds.
One I'm really looking forward to is autistic sexuality and gender.
That's going to be a loaded one.
Yes. So if anyone who's from that community who is really passionate about it, please, about any of these topics, please reach out to us at agonyautie@gmail.com. Facebook, Agony Autie, Instagram, Agony Autie, Twitter, Agony Autie, Patreon, Agony Autie as well. Also, we're going to be looking at autistic mental health and emotional well-being.
That's good too.
So yeah, loads of different issues. So there were some things I wanted to ask you, Ali. I formed a pretty tight friendship with you quite quickly, and I did it when I started Agony Autie. I started Agony Autie because my son's autistic. I'm autistic. I was diagnosed 3 years ago. I didn't know all my life. I just thought I was crazy.
Yeah.
People just inferred it and directly told me I was to my face. I understand why that is now. It's because girls weren't really recognised until much recently. So I was born in 1986, and the diagnostic criteria has only really woken up to the women on the autistic spectrum, I would say, from the early 90s.
Well, I was born in
And
1978.
very slowly then.
Yes.
So in November 2016, so not even a year ago, my body started deconditioning, which is my body's just started getting poorlier and the ligaments looser, the muscles weaker, and I've actually lost 5.5 stone through illness, and I lost my job. I was a self-employed photographer after having difficulty with employment, which that's another story. And
You've lost 5.5 stones? For Americans, that's 77
pounds. Show Ali. Ali's not seen me.
Yeah, for Americans, 5.5 stones is like 77 pounds. Oh.
I was all the way out, and now my ribs stick out. And I got really bad ribs anyway, because the way my chest is.
Oh, because of the
sternum.
And that's where your ribs have been dislocating when you sleep?
Yeah, there.
Ugh.
So I'm now 10 stone. I was 15.5, so I needed to lose weight anyway for my health. But now I've just gone it's too thin too quick. And if you think about what that is, the body has consumed 5.5 stone because it's needed it. And I'm just not happy about the rate of weight loss.
I've lost 3.5 stone. I've lost 45
Yeah, you've lost
pounds.
loads of weight since I met you, because you've had health issues as well, and we're going to talk about health and disability.
But mine also has been, I've been sick, and I've made dietary changes because I had just terrible gut health. And that's another thing that without this diagnosis, I would have never, it would have taken me much longer to understand about gut health, because gut health is so integrated with autistic
people.
Behavior. Yeah, autistic illness.
Health issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We're so vulnerable to tummy problems.
It's tough. I slip with behavior because for me, when I gave up drinking dairy, I was actually struggling with pretty devastating bout of depression, totally crippling. And a friend was in town and said, "You need to stop drinking dairy. Just try it. What could it hurt? It doesn't cost anything. Just stop." And I was, I grew up in the Midwest. I was a glass of milk in the morning, a glass of milk before bed, a slice of cheddar every, for a snack in the afternoon. I was like yogurt twice a day. I was dairy girl. And to cut that out, I was just like, for me, my entire will to live is just going to be slowly eroded from me. And that was my attitude at the beginning because I really just did not. I was addicted to the stuff. So I've been slowly losing the weight. And when I dropped the dairy, I lost 30 pounds just like that.
Yeah. And we are going to talk, we're going to talk about health, autistic health and disability, and we'll talk about our examples more in detail because I know you're going through testing and health issues as well. But with Agony Autie, I kind of went into it because I became really housebound and I can't walk for more than 5 minutes without becoming fatigued and within pain. And my depression returned again. And I only just recovered in 2015 from being suicidal.
Yeah.
You may think, what does she mean only just recovered? Yeah, it took 2 years to recover from that.
That's a very private thing too, that it's important.
I always feel embarrassed, and I shouldn't.
You shouldn't. You're stepping out there and saying, I'm going to talk about this, and you're embarrassed about it. We've got to get to the point where people can step out and talk about that and not be embarrassed. And, so you're going to start.
Aww.
Now everyone's going to follow behind. It's important.
You're so lovely. I need that. And that's why with Agony Autie, I began it because all those feelings began to return, and I was just like, I can't go through this again. Not when my body is breaking down. I can't have my mind breaking down again. I think this will be the end of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's when I picked up the camera.
That's just unbelievable.
Picked up the camera, and for some reason I was like, I'm really struggling, and opened up and I posted it in a group. I never set up a page.
This is
just
such
posted it in a group.
synergy.
And then people reached out to me and they said, you should start a page. You should start blogging about your experience. And I was like, well, I've got nothing to lose. I'm stuck at home. And then I did it. And then before I knew it, I'd say probably a month later, if not 3 weeks after, Ali reached out to me, and
oh my God, it was that early on. I'm gonna have to go look.
Open my mind, because I was doubting everything I was doing. I was thinking I shouldn't be talking about this. This is private. People don't want to know. And you and so many other followers of Agony Autie have let me know.
Yeah, you've got the best followers on the planet. Reading through some of the comments they make, because Sara gets messaged a whole lot. It's like that Simpsons episode where Ringo finally gets back to Marge. You know that episode?
I love it.
And every time I see how hard you're working to get in contact with everyone and reply to everyone, I'm like, oh my God, you're going to end up being Ringo, sitting there in every moment of your spare time replying to all of these people because you want everyone to know that you're there.
I do.
And they're not alone.
That, the podcast is a really good way to do it. The podcast is a really good way for me to kind of talk to everyone, I guess.
Yeah, just know that if you guys have PM'd Sara, that Sara really does agonize over.
I read them, if not answer them, you know?
I mean, the followers on Agony Autie have kind of brought back my faith in humanity, because just reading the beautiful kindness.
Liam as well.
I was fully expecting to find a lot of vitriol and nasty and horrible responses. And
Ali has been so wonderful, and I trust her so implicitly. In the last fortnight, she's helped me. If you've noticed, the last fortnight I've kind of sprung back into action because I've been dealing with a lot of anxiety, and just having that extra person to let me know it's okay and kind of hold my hand. You know, it helps a lot. So, Ali, what was it about Agony Autie then that you liked? Because I am curious. I have theory.
It's actually fascinating.
I have difficulty imagining what it is people like.
Yeah, in all the time we've talked together, I don't think we've ever talked about what brought me. I've got to look back where I even found it. I had just lost the support of my therapist, and I was really kind of lost. And I'm like, I was reading the books he had given me, and all of the Asperger's and autism books are written about men's experiences. The things that I was finding written by women were very academic and cold and not entirely helpful. And I was feeling really like the only woman out there with autism that was needing to talk about it. And And so then I'm like, you know what? God, I didn't even think of that. I should start looking to see, because I was on I'm on a Burmese cat rocks group, talk about how awesome our Burmese cats are. And, I was on a group to talk about chronic kidney disease, because my older cats were dying of it. So I had all these support groups. I'm like, why on earth am I not looking for an autistic support group? There's got to be other, something on the internet for everyone. On the internet, all of us can feel less alone. That's one beautiful thing that technology has really done for us. If this had happened,
that is true. But we've gonna. One of the things I do want to talk about in this series is internet safety.
Oh, that's a good,
cyberbullying and things like that. Because as wonderful as it is, I mean, for example, I would never have been able to reach out to you, never been able to meet anyone and to do Agony Autie if it wasn't for this. But it does come with its perils.
Yeah. I mean, trolls are everywhere.
Yeah. So what video was it that you watched? And what was it about it that you liked or
I am not even, I've watched so many of the videos now, I'm not even sure which one it was. But I remember calling my husband at work and saying, oh my God. So he was aware that I had been hunting for support. I had said, I'm going to start looking for some support sites. And I had a couple of really terrible run-ins with a couple of angry folks who kind of pursued me across different groups. This one guy was just attacking me for calling myself autistic. And, I
had him as well.
Yeah, and so I started
Agony
reading
Autie.
up about it, and I'm like, and then I realized that this guy just wanted to go after me.
He actually targets, he's well known for targeting autistic women who vlog.
Yeah, a couple of other women
yeah.
had said block him. He attacked me really bad, and a couple of women came to my defense and said, don't worry. And you commented and said, oh, I know who this is. It's okay. This was new for me recently too. And you just kind of patted me on the back, and I
remember that was you. No way, that
you.
was not
that
you.
Was it.
Oh my
That was it.
God.
And so Rob said maybe you ought to reach out to her as a friend. And I had just gone through a horrible Facebook purge because of, I don't know. I basically have 15 friends now, and they're all people.
See, so the internet can be a great place, but you need to be disciplined and well guarded.
Yeah.
I can't believe we're not in hugging distance. It absolutely makes me so sad.
I hate both oceans
I'm in the UK
now.
in a little city called Chester, and Ali's in LA.
Yeah.
Are you in LA, California?
No, I'm in Orange County.
But I wish we could just see each other. It makes me so sad. And that's why it is great for autistic people to be able to connect over the internet and use technology. And if there's anyone listening and who would like to talk about friendships and any advice for online, specifically advice for autistics, and if you're autistic yourself, get in touch with us again. That's agonyautie@gmail.com.
You are so good at this.
I have to ask, what is it when I do my videos? I do them. I never think before. They're always improvised, and unless some of the live chats where I know I'm going on live, I'll say to you guys, hey, I'm going to go on in an hour, and I'll quickly scribble down some notes. That's the most planned that you'll get from me with the live chat. But most of them, I just do hop on and let my emotions and let the monologue kind of come out, and it's just natural to me, and it surprised me that people were saying I'm honest and things like that, because I've always been that way, and anyone who's my friend in real life understands and knows
I'm
that.
I'm the same way, I shock people. Don't you freak people out? Do you? I still am the type who,
when speaking about emotions, I do,
I'll see people on the street, and I'll walk by a woman and go, you are so beautiful.
Oh, I do that all the time. I go, you're so lovely. You're so lovely. You're so nice.
Freaks people the hell out. It's it's okay. I just, nothing by it. You're just, God, you're beautiful, and every time it's I could have punched them in the face and maybe gotten less of a look like, what?
But what do you think that honesty that people are saying that I have, what do you think that's doing with the autistic community? Am I helping people?
Oh, I think you help.
Because some days I just feeling.
I'll tell you, I really do
Oh.
feel like, I mean, I've got such a variety of masks that I wear. And like when I watched your video, I remember calling Rob and saying, "You've got to watch this video when you get home because this this woman is so brave and she comes out here and she just bears it all. And this is what I've been feeling. And these are the things that only Rob sees, only my mom has seen, only my dad. And my dad had a really hard time. I'm not going to lie. He didn't understand. He really struggled. We're really learning how to have a relationship with each other at last now. It's very hard for humans to understand that it's not intentional and you're not a brat, that you have a meltdown because you had a vision of how you were being the perfect kid, and that vision crumbled under the reality of a little mistake. And a little mistake is catastrophic because you had a vision of how it was going to go, and that vision isn't coming to fruition, and you depended on it because that was your control of the world, because you have no control over the world. A plane can come buzzing by. At work the other day, they had a flood. I asked it because it really bothered me. They had a machine that started up about 45 minutes before my class was over, and I was actually in sensory overload for the rest of the weekend. It freaked me out. My chest was tight. I was panicked. Rob would touch me and I'd jump. I mean, I was in a state of sensory panic for a good 34 hours, just 34, 36 hours, is well into the next day before I'm like, oh, that sound isn't going to come back. These are the things that nobody sees. My boss isn't going to see that. And there was nothing that could be done about it. They were soaking up the floor after a flood. These things happen. I'm in an environment where she's very understanding. She hired me knowing I was autistic. I decided
And I've been honest about my autism now for 3 years,
Yeah.
and it's always surprised me, people's reactions. And there's a really cool campaign online called Do I Look Autistic Yet?
Oh,
that
God,
was
you
started a few months ago.
tagged me on
yeah.
that to look. That's amazing. There's a lot of voices starting to come out and say we're going to start talking about this
And this podcast is about unifying them and getting them, sharing this platform and getting them to kind of come on here. So if you're one of these pages and if I've not heard of you, get in touch.
Yeah, we want
I don't
maximum
know.
visibility. I mean, we want everyone getting to share their experiences.
I mean, what you've said about everything that I kind of show is very raw, and that, people don't normally see it. You're absolutely right. They don't. And sometimes I don't think about the consequences that I have a lot of people watching. And this week I've had 31,000 Facebook views. And
Wow,
a
I
post reach of
didn't know that.
40,000. Yeah, and that's because the fans are incredible. Like, they just...
Yeah,
like,
you've
the
got
supporters,
amazing people here.
They share my work, they interact, they engage, they comment. That's the thing about autistic people, are very loyal.
Yes. Yes.
You don't realize, and they in those moments that I've shared, those really raw, scary moments, they've treated me with kindness and
unbelievable.
acceptance.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the people who follow you on Agony Autie have been single-handedly repairing my terror of human beings. They are. I'll tell you that has helped me decide to go out and get this additional teaching job. Has helped me kind of reach out.
And what about the assessment? Because, like I said, the UK diagnostic criteria is different. So the assessment was basically... So who are you seeing then in October? Is it a psychiatrist finally?
Actually, it's kind of amazing. He is the psychiatrist that diagnosed me originally with ADHD when I was a teenager. And he's so funny. He's like, well, that's on the spectrum too. And we really weren't diagnosing girls with autism. And so
yes.
I kind of think it's kind of this beautiful little circle, because it allows him to address the fact that it was
girls are underdiagnosed,
right,
and underrecognized.
And the idea that he can say, I'm fixing this. He really was just, it's painful to me that circumstances ended up us losing him, because God, he saved my marriage. He gave Rob and I the tools to start. We always loved each other. I think that's another thing to talk about too, is relationships, because we're both.
Yes, relationships between autistics and neurotypicals, autistics and neurodivergents, and autistics and autistic.
Because even Rob, like this morning, we were watching,
humans.
the new Pink album's dropping in a couple days, and she's releasing singles, and the new one is so good. And we both kind of just held each other's hands, and Rob was like, the two of us really do understand each other, and we've come such a long way, and we've worked so hard for this, and we're making it. We're doing this, and it's you and me. We're in the foxhole together, and it's like, we really
and
are.
Rob's autistic as well, isn't he?
Yeah, Rob is. It was
Your
cute.
husband.
And that was the same therapist. We kept going to him because he was helping us with some of our communication issues. And as we were talking, Rob was we had a really 3-day just explosion, like we're divorcing, just horrible.
Oh, I've had
blow
that
up.
with
Yeah, catastrophe. I always call it that we're
Yeah.
catastrophizing. And this Pink song, it's like we're sinking. We're in a sinking ship, and it's like, yeah, that's what it feels like. It feels like we're going down, and it's the end. And then somehow we manage to find our way back to each other, and we find a way to talk about our feelings and our issues, and the fact that neither of us are feeling validated or listened to. And at some point, we both have to sit down and listen to each other. And there were things that this therapist helped us with. And at one point, we were talking, and Rob was explaining. And Rob gets very pedantic when he explains. It's very sequence-based. My therapist said, it's not about the details. You need to start identifying with the feelings that are happening under that, because it's not what happened. It's the emotions that it triggered.
I mean, Ali, you're older than me, aren't you?
Yeah,
You're like
10 years.
About 9 years, 10 years older
I'll
than
be
me.
40 in February, yeah.
You've got more life experience than me. And Ali's been really helping me through understanding that, because autistic people have great difficulty letting go of the details, because we're so fantastic at remembering the details, noticing the details,
and no one remembers
picking up on the
them
details
the
that
same
nobody
way.
else would ever even pick up on. And with my visual photographic memory that I have, that's problematic.
Well, and it's even more so problematic because we're taught that everyone sees things differently, and everyone's way of seeing it is different. While I would maintain that autistics usually are so fixated on the details that our recollection is probably more accurate. But then what do you do when, like Rob and I, where he is also autistic, and that's what was happening, is finally my therapist was like, Rob, I think you're really firmly on the spectrum too. We might want to do the test on you at some point as we're dealing with this stuff. And that was one of the unfortunate things when we lost him, is I thought we were really, heading towards self-realization that was going to be really helpful for us. And it has been. I mean, we took what we needed, I guess, and we've been able to maintain it. So, he's out there and he saved our marriage, and I'm trying to help. I do firmly believe, and I think we've talked about this too, that I would like my suffering to count for something by sharing it.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anyone any good if other people can't avoid that kind of suffering.
I think we need to stop apologizing, though, right now for the advice that we give.
Yeah.
Because I hope they know that we are two people who are just talking about our opinions and our experiences. And that's just today, because we're going to have so many different people on it who will counteract it and get to actually counteract our opinions. And then that's when we'll have a discussion.
But that's what we need to... Exactly. That's when it gets exciting. You have to hang out for the stuff that you don't necessarily agree with, because you're not going to learn if you don't listen to as much as you can. Valid discussion. We're not going to talk about things that have no scientific proof. Like, I don't think we should ever... We're just not going to talk about...
everything's... we're very scientific.
Yeah.
I love quantum physics, neuroscience,
Yeah.
Anthropology, history. So everything's kind of, my theories and opinions are based on the evidence around me. It's not just, my opinion is my opinion.
Yeah.
So, well, where's your opinion based in? What's it based on?
Yeah, and...
Oh, I know it is your opinion. It was pulled from your arse. Ah.
Yeah. right, so Sara, how did you get diagnosed?
Oh,
How did you find out you were autistic?
through Frank. Yeah, Frank was clearly autistic, and I'll talk about his own diagnosis story another day. But it was really strange to me that my son was diagnosed autistic, but he was the most familiar person to me in the world. So what I mean by that is Frank is the person who is the most similar to me. He did the eye, which is where I close one eye and zoom in and out. He used to lick things. He had sensory issues, flaps his hands, very emotional, food sensitivities, serious food aversions, self-harming behaviors. This child was me. So how could he be autistic and I'm not? And then all of a sudden, before I could really even digest that thought, my mum and Liam are saying, Sara, we think you're autistic. And I was just, really? I mean, it does make sense, but I don't think I can have this. I don't feel like I can own this because my son's needs are more severe than mine. And his needs are more severe because he only came out of nappies last year and he's 6 in November. And he has learning delays where he needs a lot of assistance. He needs a lot of reassurance. And there's nothing wrong with that. What the problem is that society doesn't have the time for that. And also parents don't have the support to do that because these children are, like you said, are like the scared little mice, like that scared little desperado mice in the world.
Yeah.
And they need to be reassured and taught how to understand these emotions, make sense of these emotions, process the emotions, process the sensory environment, which we see high perceptive, touch perceptive to taste, proprioception. We can be hyposensitive and hypersensitive. So hyposensitive is why I rip my skin off. That's when I'm undersensitive. When we are undersensitive, we tend to be nervous. So we want to kind of move to kind of soothe the body.
Yeah, we've both been looking at each other on the camera. You and I both do a lot of...
You don't shake because you're hyperactive.
Right.
You shake because your emotions are... The psychoactive part of your body is so intense that it dulls down the physical feeling of having a body. That is what it is like to be autistic for me. Now, if that sounds alien, or if that sounds like being on a different planet, or if that sounds taking drugs, so be it. When I was diagnosed, I was so relieved to have been diagnosed by the most wonderful psychiatrist. He's actually, it's really funny when sometimes you get trolls questioning my autism identity because this psychiatrist is now the autism champion for England.
Nice.
The NHS. And he's amazing. I remember the tie that he was wearing on the day because I have visual memory. And he said to me, this is really funny. Basically, sorry, I had to get referred to the psychiatrist. I've been in and out of mental health advice for 10 years. And my psychologist agreed that, yes, she thinks I'm autistic because she said to me, have you heard of something called Asperger's or autism? And I said, yes, my son's autistic. And she's like, oh, well, that makes sense because... Yeah. And I was like, okay, well, my mum and my husband think I'm autistic too. So the next step then was to be referred to a psychiatrist. Then there was a wait. I had to wait 8 months, I think I had to wait. The waiting times have now zoomed back up to 2 years in the UK.
Oh my God.
However, there was an act in Parliament recently where the UK government have dedicated to bringing autism waiting times for diagnosis back down to 13 weeks. So we'll see about that.
That's good.
That's hopeful. We're hopeful. I'm holding you guys to it.
I mean, it's taken me 3 years to find anyone who was even willing to... Every time I called, they'd be like, oh, we don't work with adults. Or I'm sorry, no
we
openings.
do. And that's the thing. We are really fortunate in the UK to have an adult UK diagnostic system.
Yeah.
And I can't believe that's so crazy that in the USA you have to be sponsored, don't you? But with my diagnosis,
you just have to go to a diagnostic psychiatrist. You don't need a sponsor. You don't need to be recommended to go to a psychiatrist. But I can't.
Thought you needed funding to get the assessment.
No, I mean that's because the assessment costs anywhere between $3,000 to $5,000.
So that kind of sponsorship.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a teacher. My husband's a writer. We don't make enough money to. I mean, my God, I can't even remember the last time we had $5,000. I mean,
yeah.
No,
I live literally week to week,
Same
Me and Liam
here.
live literally £100 in the bank week to week.
Yeah, paycheck to paycheck, hand to
'Cause,
mouth, you know?
having an autistic child has a lot of expenses to it because special needs companies, you have hijacked the prices up on the equipment for autistic people.
Yeah.
And it is shocking. I am sorry. Completely capitalized on that, but that's another issue. But yeah, so I was diagnosed pretty much on the spot because there was an occupational therapist there. And Ian Davidson, that's my psychiatrist. He said to me, he's the autism champion in the UK. He said to me he doesn't usually diagnose on the day because there normally isn't enough information on the day. But because of the amount of history that they had on me over 10 years, remember, 10 years of me going in and out of mental health. And when I was 13, I was seeing a psychologist for my food aversions as well. So they had a lot. And he said to me after consulting the occupational therapist, I'm so sorry that it has taken this long, but you are autistic and I'm happy that you see this as a positive thing, because he knew I did. I said to him, thank you, because now I understand that I'm not losing my mind, that I'm not losing my memory, that I'm not losing my sanity, my body, my senses.
That's what I
and
was
that's what
afraid
sensory
of,
aversions
too.
feel like, because meltdowns and sensory aversions feel so overwhelming.
Yeah. I know I've had experiences with in-laws where I have had meltdowns that freak them out, and they probably think very low of me for those incidents, and it was because I had no control of the situation and they hadn't prepared me for what was going to happen, and they didn't understand and I didn't understand because it was before I knew I was autistic. And looking back on it, I'm like, oh my God, that was a meltdown because this and this happened and I felt frightened. The meltdown was an inhaler. I didn't have an inhaler and I am asthmatic and I started to have asthma attack. So I literally had a meltdown because I thought I was going to suffocate to death on Main Street in Disneyland. I'm sure there was a lot of opinion of, well, why didn't you take care of it yourself? It's your health. And yes, and I suck at this.
There was a question actually I wanted to read out about diagnosis. This is from Tete Moon. How do you tell people you are autistic when you got diagnosed as an adult, or even should you tell people? And then another question on the subject
is... It's a good question.
Yeah, it is. And another one from Jenny Lamond on the subject is to diagnose or not to diagnose, pluses and minuses. What do you think, Ali? Briefly, what would you say is the benefit of self-realization that of being autistic and your personal benefits? And we're not speaking on behalf of anyone else,
right,
but just your personal benefits of diagnosis.
I tell everyone. I remember when I first started telling
loud and proud.
Yeah, I'm kind of loud anyways, so there's no point in pretending for me because it's gonna be obvious. And finally, I actually went to an event with my brother, and it was funny. He's like, Allie's the only one who didn't say something wildly embarrassing. Allie's the only one who behaved. And I'm like, and what a shame, because you actually had an excuse. You could just say she's autistic. And I always joke about that because it took me a long time to learn to be okay with my honesty.
With being yourself.
So I'm gonna own it. When people yell at me for saying I'm autistic, I finally know I'm not
who you
totally
are.
Insane. I finally know
Yeah.
why I freak out when the sun is out, why I don't see things well, and why I get
and now
headaches
we
and
can
blurs
begin to help other people
and why I don't
understand
hear things
themselves,
right.
to take ownership of that.
It's
ownership
amazing.
of it.
All the hearing tests and doctors saying, well, you've got a little diminished hearing from your all the ear infections as a child, but you hear fine. But there are times I can't hear anything, and it's not because of my ears. It's not the medical, the scientific part. It's the processing when it hits the brain, which is part of the reason I struggle with phone calls, because I can't hear unless I'm looking. I have a very hard time. I often lip read because sometimes my brain can't handle the sound of another person's voice.
I've got another question here, so then I can zoom back to Skype then, because I've had to zoom off Skype because To help Ali with that, we do video Skype so she can see my face during that, and I have to hop off sometimes to answer questions and things like that.
To look at the computer screen.
Does that help then? Like you can see, because you did explain that to me ages ago and I completely forgot. So you need, and that's the thing, speak up. Let me know your needs. Let me know, Sara. Could you repeat that? Or Sara, can you hop back on? Because, you know, if you don't tell, we'll never know. And all autistic people need to be okay about expressing their needs.
Yeah, vocal.
Just remember to be vocal, but just be respectful. That's the difficult part.
More even than respectful, because
not.
I think respectful's a hard word for us, because, you know, we sometimes think that being totally honest is being respectful, and sometimes that's not true. I would say, I would go one more step, and I would say, really try to be kind, because I think
kind. Thank you.
That's
brilliant.
We all are. Everyone, and neurotypicals, autistics alike, are. I think we all are scared, and we all are frightened of cruelty. Everyone has experienced being treated badly. You know, everyone. Well, maybe not everyone, but you know what I mean. I mean, it's
yeah.
Kindness is something that we all need to. That is work. It's hard to be kind sometimes, because
it's hard to be kind when someone's hurt you.
Yeah.
If someone's not hurt me, then being kind is easy. I don't understand why people don't do it. Being kind is the best emotion. Is kind an emotion?
I don't know. I think kind is a state.
See, we struggle with emotions. I struggle with emotions. I struggle with identifying the bloody things. Oh, that was Agony Autie's first swear word.
I popped that
F-bomb
earlier.
So I've got a question here, Ali. Mark Simpson, he's put that he'd like to basically hear experiences over the series. Because we're talking about the diagnostic experience from, you're the age 39, I'm 20, I was 27 when I was diagnosed. But what about autistics who weren't diagnosed? And what about autistics who were born in the 1940s, who are only finding out now when they're 60, when they're 70?
That's
they're
going to be
autistic.
I'm going to have, there's a couple of people I'd
We'd
like
love to invite you
to.
on this show.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's right for us to decide whether those people need to seek a diagnosis. It's such a personal, you know, it's like
absolutely.
it's
I
like,
can't ever give you recommendation advice on whether you need to, but I would say if you're really, if it gives you answers and gives you support and need, then
well, remember you and I were talking at one point, because I was really struggling to find someone to diagnose me. And I really need a medical diagnosis. I need it. For me, it is necessary. And you said, you know, Ali, the things that you're struggling with, the questions, the self-doubt, none of that's going to go away with a diagnosis. All those things will still be there. You'll just have a piece of paper that says you're autistic. And I thought about that a lot, and I talked to my parents about it, and they also understand my mind, and they understand that I need it on that piece. But that is a very private, personal choice, and no one can make that for you. That is, you know, I've had discussions with my brother where he's like, you shouldn't tell anybody. And I'm like, I can't.
Well, your brother said that to you.
He has said that. You know,
that you shouldn't tell anyone that you're autistic.
Yeah.
Okay. And what was his reasoning?
All protect. He's very protective. He's very concerned.
So he doesn't want people to hurt you, stigmatize.
Always.
So he's very aware of the taboos.
He's
that
aware
surround autism.
I am sure with him, because he's 3.5 years younger than I am, and he used to get put in the trash can because he would defend me if he thought I needed defending. He was always very supportive. I was the big sister, and he was the one coming to my defense. And we've always been extremely close.
And you have told me about that lovely relationship.
Yeah. And I know I've changed my mind, my dad's mind, because my dad at first was like, I wish you wouldn't tell people, it makes people uncomfortable. And I said, are you sure it doesn't just make you uncomfortable? In typical autistic, like, I didn't realize until later that wasn't a very nice thing to say. And my dad, God, you know, he really is working hard to understand something very new and very scary. And
from his generation, autism is it is a scary thing because of the way it was. And that we're seeing, that's why we want to talk about the
Right.
representation in media and culture, because autism, it's time for people to realize that autistic people are just humans, for
Yeah.
goodness sake. Humans who communicate differently. Some of us are verbal, some of us are pre-verbal, which means we have a limited vocabulary.
Yeah.
Some of us are echolalic, which means that we only repeat
Echo,
words.
is that the echoing? Yeah.
Yeah. And some of us are selective mutes, which means that we are able to talk, but when emotionally overwhelmed, the body becomes selectively mute and we can't participate in conversation until the body learns to regulate again. And that happens to me. And we have autistics who are unable to deal with the sensory aversions because their sensory aversions are so prominent,
Yeah.
so evasive, so all-encompassing. I mean, one of the things I wanted to say is autism, as we know, is a spectrum. Everybody is different. And I hope we've kind of gotten that across as an introduction in today's show. I mean, one of the last questions I want to read out before we get going is, do you have any advice for autistic adults who struggle with executive dysfunction, especially after a day of school or work? Now, I am useless at this.
This is my bread and butter. This is
Executive dysfunctioning is pretty similar to
organization.
organization issues to people who have ADHD.
Yeah.
So it's like running mind syndrome, I like to call it. The mind racing at 1,000,000 miles an hour.
From my research, it also is something that women tend to have a lot
Can't make
more
sense of them.
trouble with, because women are so encouraged to
Women
have
autistics.
social skills. Yeah, and men are so encouraged to have practical skills. And so oftentimes women are even more behind in executive functioning from the studies that I've been reading. I talk a lot about executive function because I'm a teacher. And so it is something that I struggle with a lot. I still have lists like physically up in my house because having like alarms on my phone didn't do anything, because I'll just not have my sound on my phone. If I want to avoid it, I will. I can't avoid the list my mom made me that sits on my wall. And when my mom comes in every few months, we review the list. She comes to visit every 6 months or so these days. We'll review the list and I'll say, Mom, here's the stuff that I'm struggling with right now. Can you help me organize it? And my mom goes through little by little. We read, because we've been living in this new place for 2.5 years now. And so I have to restructure everything from scratch all over again. It's very disruptive for me.
I think Liam struggles massively. Liam and me have big executive functioning issues, and I think our advice to each other is we have tried to prompt each other to remind each other to write things down and make lists. And the reason this can be such a confusing way to live is because my head is so disorganized, busy, full.
Yeah.
You can't make sense of which thought to think about first because you are thinking about all 50 at once. So how do you pluck one of them out to make the important to-do task? How do you do that? Now, some of these aren't only thoughts. Some of these are ideas. Some of these are memories. Some of these are sensations that your brain are feeling, and you can feel it all processing at once. And I feel like that is the autistic kind of processing experience of stimuli, social stimuli, cultural stimuli, sensory stimuli, emotional stimuli.
God, and we're affected by everything too.
But even writing it down's not easy because I can't. Talking it through for me
that's what I have
creates
to
a
do.
monologue
Yeah.
because inside my head is too busy.
Yeah.
So I cannot think about what I'm going to say because how can I think about what I'm going to say? Talking out loud. My Uncle Mick said something beautiful to me today. He said, Sara, I can see that your mouth is struggling to keep up with what is going on inside your brain.
My mom
because
always
your
says
brain is
that.
going at 90 miles per hour.
Yeah.
And you're struggling to make sense of it. And I can see that you're communicating to me. Your communication to me is you making sense of what is going on in your head.
Yeah.
So when Freud, Sigmund Freud, whatever, when he said that talking therapy is good, is the best therapy, he wasn't wrong. He, it didn't go far enough. That was the Victorians' fault because they were so bloody conservative and anal. They wouldn't talk, and that was their fault for only using that one model for ages. But talking is key because it enables you to get out what's going inside, especially if you are ADHD personalities, OCD personalities. Maybe you have a lot of energy, maybe you have hypersensitivity, so you have a lot of stimming behaviors. You like to spin, you like to circle, you like to pace, or writing things down, talking about it, singing about it, creating something that lets you get a bit of your head out.
That I think that has to do with some of the things that we get obsessive about, like my Star Trek or my Hunger Games thing.
Doing something.
Yeah.
Doing something achieves that.
Yeah,
as well,
focusing
and
sending that
the mind.
Yeah, sending that focus into funneling it into something where you just super focus on that one thing. That is for me.
And meditation is something I really want to get into. So if anyone is autistic,
we need to talk about
is
that.
great at meditation, please, we want to hear from you. We'd love to invite you onto our show.
Yeah.
I hope everyone's enjoyed this. I don't know how we did. If you did like it, tweet. Find me on Twitter. It's Agony Autie. And the hashtag is Agony Autie Pod for now, until we think of a name. We have no idea what the name... Actually, let's just leave this one nameless. And because we are a startup, we do need money to contribute to this. So we can get mics, that we can better our equipment, so we can send out for our co-hosts and our anchors, because we don't want our autistic guests going out of pocket.
Mm-hmm.
So we need as much help as we can get. We're going to be asking for a little $1
That's a good idea.
tip jar.
Especially
because
my
your
ideas
idea, Ali.
you
It was your idea,
cringe.
Ali.
I didn't even
You
realize.
gave me the courage to do it because I've been so scared of asking anyone.
Okay, so anyone who
broke.
this pisses off, forgive me. I worry about my friend being able to take care of her family, and you can
Put
food
food on the
me.
table.
Yeah, you're welcome to hate me for telling her that she needed to ask for, I said, it'd be okay for you to ask for a cup of coffee, because if you were meeting with a friend or if you were helping somebody out, it's just common decency to buy a cup of coffee to have a chat. And I thought, a coffee and a scone might be a nice way of, if you wanted something a little more. But
I would like a coffee and a scone.
a scone? Am I really?
But I actually say
pronouncing it
scone.
wrong?
No, I say
Okay.
scone. I say scone. I
I
can't
worked
stand scone. It
so
makes me feel
hard
sick.
to-
It's
Kinda cool. Scone is kinda cool.
Canaku is like a corny, gross word that makes me want to be sick, because the way it sounds just makes me want to vomit. It's like a sensory version of like the way the sound wave interacts with my mind.
Different? Is that a accent?
Oh, Pommy.
Oh, that was worthy.
So if you enjoyed today, please join in next time. Go to Twitter. Ali, do you have anywhere that people can follow you yet? Are you still
Not yet. Working
a little
on the
bit shy and
website.
humble?
I'm a perfectionist, and I'm trying to put this Alikat tutoring together, where I'm going to talk about educational approaches and really work on talking about how we can use education to start making environments conducive to autistics who are capable of learning. And I think autistics are capable of so much more than anyone is giving us credit for. And I think we've got to stand up and say that.
Awesome. And that's what this podcast's going to be doing. Each week, we're going to be celebrating autism diversity. We're going to be proud about ourselves instead of ashamed about ourselves.
Yep.
We're going to be reminding each other, being kind to each other, reminding each other, no, you're awesome. No, I go through that too.
Yeah.
No, you inspire me, because that kindness goes so far.
It does
And-
with everyone. Everyone's just got to be a
and
little
the kindness that we
kinder.
receive, it's just insane.
Yeah, oh
So-
God, your supporters again. I really do believe my faith in humanity.
Well, I
has
am
been
relying on my
restored by
supporters.
those
I'm
people.
relying
Yeah.
I'm relying on my supporters to treat my alley cat nice. Because I know they will. Otherwise, I never would have invited her to be a co-host.
I'm just a calcified old lady.
Thank thank you so much. We hope you tune in again next time. We are going to have a guest next time, and I'm going to keep it secret because I don't know who it's going to be. Yeah, that works too. Liam is going to be our amazing editor, and Liam's going to be appearing on here soon as well. So yeah, please follow me at Agony Autie on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Please go and check us out at Patreon. And like Ali said, buy me a skull. But buy me, Frank, and Liam a skull. Anyway, peace and love. And thank you so much for listening. Yes!